Okay, let's take a look at the graph editor. Let's create a rectangle or a square. Go ahead and select Y, and click on that box, click off the box, and then click on, and then we'll hit Y, and we can move this anchor point up to the middle, and then select V for our selection tool over here, and we're just gonna do a quick motion. Let's change our name to SQ for square 1. And let's go ahead and put a keyframe in. Here for transform, we'll just do P. For our position, give it a keyframe and move it over a little bit. And we're going to take our selection, with our selection tool, we'll take our square and just move it over. Like that, just to give it a little bit of motion. Let's go ahead and take our square and Command D for duplicate. And let's select those keyframes and shift and move it down. I'm going to hit U to show the frames for each one. Okay, so let's see. All right, let's take a look at the square, the first one. All right, we'll go ahead and go into our graph editor and just kind of see how this works. As you can kind of see, all the frames here are about equally the same. And down here in the graph editor, you can kind of see it's just a straight line. It starts at this speed right here, which is 1,000 pixels per second, and just goes straight across. So if we want to change that, we can grab our positions and just move them. So moving this down here is going to move us down into a slower area, which is 0 instead of 1,000. So right now it goes really fast and goes and ends at a real slow point. And you can see that also in the frames. You can see there's a lot of frames, and then they start getting smaller and smaller, which means it just kind of starts going from fast to slow. We'll take a look at that. So you can see it picks up quicker and then gets slower. Let's try to make that a little bit more obvious. So let's move this up even faster. Move this over. We'll make this really slow when it moves towards the end. So this will be really slow. So we'll have it start really fast, get even faster, and then move it into a very slow motion. So there it's a little more obvious, you can see it. So it takes off really fast and goes really slow. And that's what the graph editor can do. Now we can also do that without a graph editor. It just makes it a little more difficult, and it's probably not quite as easy, but let's take a look kind of what we're doing without the graph editor. Or do something similar at least. So as you can see, all of these points, those are the frames, and they're all evenly spaced. Whereas this one, you can see that it starts out fast, so there's not very there's not very many in-betweens. But it has a lot more in between frames right in here, because that's when it's getting slower. So fast to slow. And here they're all even. So let's just kind of show you. So we want this to take off really fast and do something kind of similar to this. So we want it to go really fast up to about right here. So let's move our timeline right here. And then we're going to select this one and try to make it a little bit similar to where we used our graph editor. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to use it not using the graph editor. So at this point, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to shift select it with the selection tool and just move it over there. Okay. So you can kind of see it has a pretty similar speed. Okay, so now I'm going to move it over. We'll go about there on the timeline. And then I'm going to take and select that square again with the selection tool and shift select, and then I'm just going to move it pretty close to where it's at on the bottom, that bottom one. Okay, so I'm just using keyframes. So it's not exact, but it'll probably look fairly similar. So let's preview that. So I just wanted to show you what you can do with either just keyframes or with the graph editor. As you can see, the graph editor gives you probably more control, and it's a little more probably easier to get those sort of things. See, up above, you kind of have to think about where you're putting the keyframes. So you might have to think a little bit more. So that's about it for this one.